The galaxy was burning. Stars that once shone with peace now lit up battlefields where entire fleets were torn apart. Civilizations that had stood for thousands of years crumbled in days. Cities were swallowed by fire, and the proud voices of alien empires fell silent one by one. The invaders were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. They were merciless, endless, and impossible to stop. They did not take prisoners. They did not leave survivors. Across hundreds of worlds, alien leaders gathered in panic. They sent out desperate calls for help to every ally they knew, but no answer came. Their fleets were scattered. Their soldiers were dying. No empire, no council, no federation had the strength to fight back. Fear spread faster than the invaders themselves. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt helpless. In their desperation, they decided to send a single message into the void. It was an old protocol created long ago in times of fear, a signal, a plea for rescue broadcast on ancient frequencies that no living species used anymore. The council did not expect anyone to hear it. It was a cry into the dark, a final whisper of a dying galaxy. The message traveled across space, past broken satellites, past burning star systems, past drifting corpses of fleets that once stood proud. It echoed into silence, reaching corners of the galaxy long forgotten. And there, in the depths of abandoned star systems, the signal found something. Beneath the frozen crust of a dead planet, a giant machine stirred. It had been buried for thousands of years, hidden away when humanity disappeared from the stars. The machine was a Titan, a warship built for destruction on a scale no alien mind could imagine. For ages it had slept, covered in ice, its engines silent, its weapons cold. But the signal woke it. The Titan's sensors flickered alive. Red lights glowed across its hull. Deep inside its core, power returned, flowing through forgotten circuits. The sound of ancient engines rumbled like the heartbeat of a giant waking from a long dream. Snow and ice cracked, falling away as heat returned to the steel monster. For Ryu, the first time in centuries, the machine remembered its purpose. It was built to answer calls like this. It was built to protect. It was built for war. The signal traveled farther. In hidden valleys of lifeless moons, more Titans began to awaken. Some were buried beneath oceans of ice, some locked away in caverns, beneath mountains, some drifting silent in the shadows of forgotten asteroid fields. Each one heard the same call. Each one responded with the same awakening. Engines lit up, weapon systems charged, and deep inside their cores, they activated the one truth they carried. Humanity had commanded them to rise if the galaxy ever cried for help. Aliens who scanned the old frequencies gasped in fear when they noticed strange energy signatures returning. They saw planets glow with new power, moons shake as enormous shapes emerged from the ground. At first they thought it was the invaders, but then they realized these were older, much older, and far more terrifying. On one broken world, a scientist of the Yareth species stared at his scanner. His hands trembled. The readings were impossible. "This cannot be," he whispered. These are human machines." The others in the room froze. Humanity was only a myth to them, a ghost, story told by the old. Humans had vanished thousands of years ago, leaving behind ruins no one understood. No one had seen a living human in generations. Yet here it was, undeniable. Their machines were still here, still waiting, still alive. The scientist turned pale, as the signal repeated, now bouncing off the Titans themselves. He realized the terrible truth. The galaxy had called for help, but it was not allies that had answered. It was not friends. It was the silent giants of a species that had once shaken the stars with war. Above the frozen planet, the first Titan broke free from the ice. Its shape was massive, triangular, with engines the size of cities. Lights along its sides came to life like rows of fire. Slowly, the beast lifted from the ground, leaving a storm of snow and thunder behind. Every alien who watched the scene felt the same chill in their bones. Humanity had not returned, but their creations had, and their creations were not merciful. The desperate signal had been answered. and the galaxy would soon discover what it had truly awakened. The galaxy had called, and the giants had begun to rise. On the frozen world of Arios, the ground shook as a mountain of steel climbed free from the ice. The Titan's engines glowed, like suns, melting away the frost that had kept it buried for centuries. It lifted slowly, its shadow swallowing the valley below. Snowstorms spun in every direction as if nature itself feared its return. Across the galaxy, other Titans stirred. On a desert moon where storms had raged for 1,000 years, dunes split apart as another Titan rose from beneath the sand. Rust broke from its armor, but the light of its core burned as bright as ever. On a gas giant's hidden moon, ancient hangars opened like wounds, releasing hulks of war that had waited in silence. One by one they emerged, shaking dust from their bodies, their systems rebooting with precision no alien mind could match. Alien watchers across the stars panicked. Fleets sent to monitor the strange signals now recorded images that spread faster than fire. Beings who had never believed in human myths now saw proof. The Titans were real. They were alive, and they were moving. A council of the Rylock species met in secret chambers lit by trembling fire. Their leader, Elder Mur, leaned forward with wide, fearful eyes. "I saw the records," he whispered. "When I was a child, my grandfather told me stories. He said humanity built machines so terrible that even gods would bow. I never believed him. Now I know he spoke truth." Another counselor shook his head in horror. "If these Titans are real, if they have awakened, then the galaxy may have traded one terror for another, for the Titans did not answer messages. They did not speak. They only rose. Their silence was heavier than any words. On the world of Iridian, the invaders finally noticed. A swarm fleet of black ships descended upon the rising Titan. They fired beams of burning plasma, weapons that had destroyed countless alien fleets before. The Titan did not move at first. It stood as though considering, as though measuring its enemies. Then without warning it answered. From its side, a single cannon unfolded. The weapon was older than the invaders' entire race, but it shone with pure, focused energy. One shot tore through the black fleet. Entire ships vaporized, reduced to drifting ash. The swarm screamed, scattered, and regrouped, but the Titan continued. Another shot, then another. In less than a minute, an armada that had ruled the stars for centuries was gone. The galaxy trembled. Across communications networks, whispers spread. Some cheered, some cried, some fell silent. A dying galaxy had called for salvation, and it had been answered not by saviors, but by weapons designed for absolute destruction. On a quiet research station orbiting the shattered world of Thalros, a young alien scientist named Vera watched the feeds. She stared in disbelief as the Titan crushed fleets that had once been unstoppable. "It is not fighting for them," she whispered to herself. "It is not fighting for anyone. It is fighting because that is what it was built to do." The station around her was silent, filled with others who dared not breathe. Everyone understood what she meant. The Titans had not risen for friendship. They had not risen for mercy. They had risen because the galaxy had spoken words that humanity had left for them to answer. A signal of distress, a call to war. More Titans emerged. Their numbers grew each day. Some rose from broken planets, some drifted from abandoned orbits, and some appeared from rifts in deep space, long hidden in secret vaults. No matter where they came from, each one carried the same cold purpose. They moved like predators, slow but unstoppable, weapons always ready, silence always unbroken. In the great halls of alien councils, fear grew heavier. What if humanity itself still lived hidden in some dark corner of the stars? If their machines were this powerful, what would the humans themselves be like now? Had they evolved into something even more terrifying? Or had they left the Titans behind as their eternal shadow, their answer to any cry for help? In the far reaches of the void, one Titan drifted past the ruins of a burned world. Its sensors scanned the dead cities, calculating, measuring, storing. Lights along its massive, Frame pulsed like the slow breath of a beast. Then, with a deep rumble that shook the stars, it turned its weapons outward once again. The invaders had destroyed the galaxy's hope. The Titans were about to destroy the invaders. And as they awakened in greater numbers, a new question haunted every living mind. Were these machines truly saviors? Or the beginning of something far worse? The galaxy had watched the Titans awaken. Now it would watch them kill. The invaders had ruled without challenge for years. Their black fleets spread like disease, consuming systems, draining resources, and leaving behind nothing but silence. They had broken every council, crushed every empire, and left survivors crawling in fear. To them, the Titans looked like old relics, heavy giants that belonged to another age. The invaders laughed when their scouts sent back images of steel shapes rising from dust and ice. "They are ruins," one commander hissed in the tongue of his people. "They will fall like the rest." The swarm moved. Hundreds of ships surrounded the first Titan that rose from the frozen world of Arios. They fired together, filling the void with burning plasma and waves of energy. The Titan stood silent, absorbing every strike against its armored frame. Smoke and light swirled around it. But when the storm cleared, the machine was still there, untouched, watching. Then the Titan answered. Its main cannon extended, glowing with white fire. A single beam erupted brighter than a sun. It cut across the enemy fleet like a blade, splitting ships apart in silence. Dozens of invader vessels disintegrated instantly, their debris scattered like ashes in the wind. The swarm hesitated, stunned, before surging forward again. But the Titan had no mercy. From its sides, batteries unfolded, revealing weapons lost to time. Energy pulses, rail slugs, beams of burning plasma, each one fired with perfect precision. Entire groups of ships vanished in bursts of fire. No alien fleet had ever seen such destruction. In seconds, what had been a wall of black ships became a graveyard of drifting metal. Across the galaxy, alien eyes widened in disbelief. Council chambers filled with silence as the images spread. On screens and hollow projectors, beings of every species watched the Titan move, slow but unstoppable. Each step a death sentence. They whispered to one another in fear. Some called it salvation. Others called it the end of all hope. On the station above Thalros, Vera, the young scientist, pressed her trembling hands against the glass. Her voice shook. "It is not just powerful, it is precise. It is fighting like it remembers every war it ever faced." Beside her, her mentor, old and scarred, whispered words no one wanted to hear. "This is humanity's shadow. This is why they were feared. This is why they vanished. They did not die. They left their monsters behind." The invaders tried to regroup. They brought their strongest weapons, beams that had destroyed cities in seconds, missiles that cracked planets. They unleashed all of it against the Titan, but each weapon was met with countermeasures, barriers of energy, or answered with firepower even greater. The Titan was not fighting like a machine. It was fighting like a predator. Every move was deliberate. Every strike was final. When the battle ended, the swarm was gone. Hundreds of ships reduced to silence. Only the Titan remained, standing tall in the void, its lights glowing like the eyes of an ancient god. But the strike did not end there. In the same hours, Titans across other systems moved. On the desert, moon of Koresh, one Titan rose into orbit and tore apart fleets that had enslaved the planet for decades. On the burned husk of Voltra, another Titan unleashed storms of fire that vaporized invader strongholds. Wherever the Titans awakened, the invaders died. The galaxy, once helpless, now watched the impossible happen. The destroyers of worlds were being destroyed themselves. The survivors on conquered planets looked to the sky in awe. They saw shapes larger than mountains descending like judgment, weapons blazing with white fire. Some fell to their knees and prayed. Some screamed in terror. None knew if the Titans were there to save them or to bury them as well. For the Titans never spoke. They never sent messages. They gave no warnings, no explanations. They answered only with fire. On the world of Rivos, the Coalition Council gathered again. Leaders argued, shouted, and trembled as they tried to understand. "Are they protecting us?" one demanded. "No," another hissed, eyes wide with dread. "They are protecting nothing. They are doing what they were built to do. They are making war." The chamber fell silent as a messenger rushed in, his face pale. He held a hollow feed of the latest battle. A Titan, larger than any before, had entered combat. Its weapons were so powerful that entire planets shook when it fired. The invaders screamed in desperation, but they could not stop it. The counselors stared at the image, and for the first time they realized the truth. They had sent out a signal asking for salvation, but what they had awakened was not salvation. It was punishment. The first strike had ended, and the galaxy trembled at what was to come next. The galaxy had witnessed the first strike. Entire fleets that once seemed unstoppable had been erased in minutes. The invaders, who had crushed empires with ease, now screamed in panic as they faced machines that fought with cold precision and endless power. The Titans had shown no weakness. They had shown no mercy. On every world, beings gathered around, screens listening to reports, watching images that spread across the stars. Some wept with joy, believing they were saved. Others wept with fear, knowing they had called something worse than the invaders. The Titans had answered the cry for help, but they did not fight like guardians. They fought like executioners. On the council station above Rivos, Elder Mir of the Rylox sat in silence. His voice was low when he finally spoke. "This is not rescue. This is judgment. The Titans destroy everything that stands in their path. Today, it is the invaders. Tomorrow, it could be us." His words spread through the chamber like poison. Some leaders shouted that the Titans were their saviors, that humanity's machines had returned to protect them. Others argued that no being could control such power, that the Titans were not allies but storms made of steel. Fear twisted every voice. Trust began to collapse. Meanwhile, the invaders grew desperate. Their fleets scattered across dozens of systems, trying to regroup. They launched assaults on worlds that held no Titans, hoping to rebuild their strength. But no matter where they went, the Titans found them. One would rise from an ocean trench. Another would appear from the shadows of asteroids. Sometimes they seemed to emerge from nowhere, as if the galaxy itself had birthed them. Wherever the invaders turned, Titans followed. On a ruined colony world, survivors watched from bunkers as two Titans marched across the sky. Their shapes were enormous, taller than mountains, their weapons glowing with white fire. Every step shook the earth. The survivors whispered to each other, afraid to speak too loudly. Some fell to their knees in worship. Others pressed their faces into the dirt, hoping not to be noticed. For the Titans never looked at them. They never slowed. They ignored the survivors completely, focusing only on the invaders that swarmed above. The people realized the terrible truth. Humanity's machines did not care who lived and who died. They cared only about the mission. The call for help had been heard. The response was war. On the station of Thalros, young Vera studied the data again and again. Her hands shook as she read the patterns. "They are not moving randomly," she whispered. "They are following a design. Every strike, every battle, every awakening. This is not chaos. It is strategy." Her mentor frowned. "Whose strategy?" "There are no humans left to command them." But Vera could not answer. Deep inside, she wondered the same thing. Were the Titans acting on their own? Or had humanity left something more, something unseen, still guiding them across the stars? The invaders continued to fall. Worlds that had once burned under their fire, now burned under the Titans' guns. Entire battlefronts collapsed in hours. Panic spread among alien leaders. Some begged the Titans to stop, sending transmissions filled with promises and desperate pleas. The Titans never replied. Their silence was more terrifying than any threat. Rumors began to spread through the galaxy. Some whispered that humans were still alive, hidden far away, and that they were returning to reclaim their place. Others believed the Titans were ghosts, empty machines that fought with the rage of a long-dead species. A few even claimed that the Titans were alive, that humanity had turned themselves into machines to fight forever. None of these stories could be proven, but every story carried the same weight: fear. In the deep void near the collapsed system of Vornax, a massive fleet of invaders made their last stand. Thousands of black ships gathered, forming a wall of fire. They prepared their strongest weapons, desperate to end the nightmare. For a brief moment it seemed the swarm had regained control. Then the Titans came. Not one, not two, dozens. They rose from hidden vaults in the asteroid fields, from icy moons, from beneath shattered planets. Their combined power lit the void like a false sunrise. The invaders fired everything at once, turning the battlefield into a storm of light. But the Titans moved as one, their weapons answering with a fury the galaxy had not seen in ages. The battle was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Hours later, silence returned. The invader fleet was gone, erased as though it had never existed. Only the Titans remained, drifting like shadows among the wreckage. Across the galaxy, billions trembled. Some whispered prayers to the humans they had never known. Others whispered warnings that the galaxy itself had awakened its doom. The desperate signal had saved them from one terror, but in its place, it had brought back something far greater. Humanity's long silent Titans now ruled the stars, and every world knew the truth. If the Titans chose to turn against them, no one could survive. The galaxy was silent. The invaders, once feared as unstoppable, were gone. Their fleets had been erased. Their armies had been burned away. Only drifting, wreckage and hollow echoes remained. Worlds that had been enslaved looked to the skies in disbelief. For the first time in years, the black banners of the swarm no longer cast shadows across suns. But the galaxy did not celebrate, because the Titans remained. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They drifted above conquered worlds like silent gods, their weapons glowing faintly, their engines humming with ancient power. They did not land. They did not speak. They only hovered, waiting, watching. Their presence was heavier than chains, pressing fear into every living mind. The galaxy began to wonder, what would the Titans do now that the war was finished? In the Yi, great chamber of the Coalition Council, silence filled the air. Leaders sat together, their voices low, their faces pale. Elder Mirror of the Rylox finally broke the stillness. "We called for help," he said, and help came. But it was not ours to command. These Titans do not obey us. They obey something else, something far older. No one answered him. No one dared. Across the void, on the shattered world of Arios, the first Titan that had awakened hovered above the frozen mountains. Its lights pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Its sensors scanned the skies, measuring, calculating. Then, for the first time, it changed. A deep signal began to hum from within its core. Not a weapon, not a threat, a transmission. The message spread, across every channel, every system, every ship, every world. Billions heard it at once. For ages, the Titans had been silent. Now a voice spoke through them. It was human, calm, cold, unstoppable. "Your signal has been received," the voice said. "Your SOS has been answered. The invaders are gone. Humanity does not forget." Every being froze where they stood. In cities, in stations, in starships, they listened. The voice was heavy with authority, carrying the weight of a species that had once ruled the stars. No one knew where it came from, whether it was a living human, a ghost of the past, or an intelligence built into the Titans themselves. But the effect was the same. It was the return of a legend. The voice continued. "You believed us gone. You believed us forgotten. But we are still here. We are watching, and now you will remember what humanity is." Across the galaxy, panic erupted. Some cheered, crying that salvation had come. Others screamed in terror, realizing their new masters had arrived. Whole planets fell to their knees in worship. Others armed themselves, preparing for a war they knew they could never win. The station above Thalros, young Vera stared at the screen, her heart pounding. "It is them," she whispered. "It is really them." Humans still exist. Her mentor shook his head, but his eyes were wide with awe. Or perhaps they never left. Perhaps they have been waiting all this time. The Titans moved again. Slowly, they began to reposition across the stars. They did not retreat into silence. They spread, forming patterns, aligning themselves like pieces on a board. It was not random. It was order. It was control. The galaxy realized with horror that this was not the end of war. It was the beginning of something larger. The Coalition Council fell into chaos. Leaders shouted over one another, arguing whether to welcome humanity or resist. Some believed humans had returned as saviors. Others believed they had come as conquerors. But deep inside, all of them knew the truth. It did not matter what they believed. Humanity had spoken. Humanity had decided. And no one could stop them. On the frozen world, the Titans' lights grew brighter. The voice returned one last time. "You called for us," it said. "Now you will live under our shadow. The galaxy is no longer yours to rule. Humanity has returned." The transmission ended. The silence that followed was heavier than war. Across every world, every star system, every mind, the same realization struck like thunder. The invaders had been their nightmare. But humanity was their destiny. The galaxy cried for help, and the Titans had risen. But the price of salvation was clear. Humanity was no longer a myth. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity was back, and the galaxy would never be free again.